"Pretend to be my girlfriend," the billionaire whispered, but his one rule left her breathless. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character.
Don't look at the cameras. We need to
The
move
evening
now.
buzzed with soft jazz and the clinking of champagne glasses, the kind of luxury event where every dress shimmered under chandeliers and every smile was rehearsed. But she didn't belong here, and she knew it with every shaky breath. Lily Carter, in a borrowed black dress and heels half a size too big, stood near the edge of the ballroom pretending to look confident, while silently praying no one noticed she was completely out of place. She wasn't a guest, she was only here to deliver a portfolio to a vendor working backstage. That was it. Drop it off, leave quietly, survive the night without embarrassing herself. But fate never liked simple plans. As she tried to slip through the crowd, her foot caught the hem of her dress. She stumbled forward, bumping into a tall, broad-shouldered man in a tailored charcoal suit. Her heart lurched. The man turned, and she froze. Adrian Hale, the billionaire, the youngest tech power player in New York. The man whose face had been on Forbes, Bloomberg, and every business headline for the past year. And now he was staring right at her. His eyes, an unsettling shade of storm gray, narrowed not in annoyance, but in recognition of something she didn't understand. Before she could apologize, a cluster of reporters rounded the corner, cameras raised, calling his name. "Mr. Hale! Are the rumors true about your breakup? Is it affecting the company merger?" Adrian's jaw tightened. For a flash of a second, something raw and unguarded appeared behind his carefully controlled expression. Panic? No, more like desperation. Then his hand shot out and wrapped gently around Lily's wrist. His voice dropped to a whisper that grazed her ear like warm breath. "Pretend to be my girlfriend," he said. "Just for tonight." Her entire body went still. "What?" she stammered, barely able to breathe. "Why me?" But he didn't answer. The footsteps of reporters grew louder, closing in. He leaned closer, eyes locked on hers, and whispered one more line, one rule soft enough that only she could hear it. "If you say yes, you must follow every condition I give you. No questions. Ever." The words sent a chill racing down her spine. She didn't understand any of this, why a billionaire would pull a stranger into his world, why he needed a fake girlfriend at all, why that one rule carried so much weight in his voice. But the reporters were only seconds away, flashes already firing, and Adrian Hale, untouchable, composed, impossible, was looking at her like she was his only lifeline. "So," he murmured, his grip steady, "do we have a deal?" And for the first time that night, Lily realized her quiet, ordinary life was about to be pulled into a storm she never saw coming. The cameras erupted in flashes the moment Lily whispered the smallest, trembling yes. Adrian's hand tightened around her wrist just enough to guide her, not enough to hurt, and suddenly they were moving together as if this had been planned long before tonight. Reporters surged forward. "Mr. Hale, who is she? Is this your new girlfriend? Is the breakup officially over?" Adrian slid an arm around Lily's waist, pulling her subtly against his side. It felt like standing beside a wall of quiet power, composed on the outside but burning with something fierce beneath. Lily swallowed hard. There was no script, no practice, no idea what she was doing in a ballroom filled with the richest people in New York. She was a girl from a tiny studio apartment with peeling paint, standing next to a billionaire who could buy entire blocks of Manhattan without blinking. And now cameras were pointed at her like she was someone important. Adrian gave a calm smile to the crowd. "We will not be taking questions tonight," he said, voice steady, confident, absolute. "Enjoy the event." The firmness in his tone made the press take a literal step back. He guided Lily away toward a quieter hallway, his hand never leaving her waist until they reached a secluded alcove lit by a single golden sconce. Only then did he exhale, tension leaving his shoulders as if he had been holding the entire world together. Lily finally found her voice. "Why me?" she whispered. "You do not even know who I am." Adrian looked at her, really looked, as if searching her face for something he needed but could not name. "Because you did not panic. And because you are the one face in this room I am certain does not want anything from me." She opened her mouth to respond, but he cut in, gentler this time. "I will explain everything, but not here." He pulled out his phone, typed a quick message, and then nodded as if confirming something privately. "Come," he said softly. "Just for a moment." Lily almost refused. This was insane. She should have gone home, gone back to her life where nothing extraordinary ever happened, and where billionaires did not whisper impossible requests in her ear. But her feet followed him anyway, like gravity had shifted direction. He led her to a side lounge reserved for VIP guests, a stark contrast to the glittering chaos outside. The space was quiet, framed by velvet curtains and polished marble. A waiter turned to approach, but Adrian raised a hand, dismissing him without a word. When they were alone, Adrian ran a hand through his perfectly styled dark hair, a moment of unguarded exhaustion flickering across his face. "I owe you an explanation," he said. "But for tonight, what matters is this. The story out there must be consistent. If anyone asks, we met at a charity tech expo last month. We had coffee, we talked, and now we are seeing where this goes." He paused, then added with a gravity that made her pulse skip, "And you must remember my rule. No questions about why I needed this." Lily nodded even though confusion swirled inside her. "I can do that," she said quietly. Adrian studied her again, as if trying to read thoughts hiding behind her eyes. "Thank you." For a man like him to say those words even softly made her chest tighten. He offered his arm, more formal now. "We should go back, just for a few minutes. Enough to keep the facade intact." She hesitated but placed her hand gently on his forearm. His muscles tensed beneath her touch, not in discomfort but in awareness. When they stepped back into the ballroom, the crowd shifted instantly, whispers floating like silk threads. "That is her. She is pretty, but who is she? Is she the reason he finally moved on?" Adrian leaned down, murmuring just loud enough for only her to hear. "Do not worry, you are safe with me." And for a fleeting second, Lily almost believed him. But deep down, she knew safety was the last thing this arrangement would bring. Because the moment she stepped into that room on his arm, her ordinary world quietly closed its door, and a new one opened, glittering and dangerous, waiting to swallow her whole. The ballroom's glow seemed even brighter when Lily stepped back in on Adrian's arm, but inside her chest everything felt unsteady, like she was balancing on a thin wire stretched over a life she did not recognize. The music swelled, a slow, elegant tune, and guests parted instinctively as Adrian guided her toward the center of the room. It was not a dance floor, but people moved aside anyway, as if giving space to something they could not quite define. Lily whispered nervously, "Do we really have to stay out here?" Adrian leaned slightly toward her, enough that she felt the warmth of his breath along her temple. "Only for a moment. They need to see us together. After that, I will get you out of here." His voice was calm, but underneath it she sensed tension, a quiet storm he was trying to hold back. Her fingers tightened on his arm. She did not belong in diamonds and curated smiles, surrounded by power that could crush her without noticing. She was just someone who came to deliver a portfolio. But every time she looked up at him, Adrian met her eyes with this impossible steadiness, as if silently telling her she was doing fine. A woman in a shimmering silver gown approached, her steps smooth and calculated. She was beautiful, in that sharp way only people born into wealth often were. "Adrian," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes, "you disappeared and came back with someone new." Her gaze slid to Lily, a slow up and down that made Lily's stomach knot. Adrian's expression did not change. "Lily and I are spending time together." The woman's eyebrow lifted with a flicker of disbelief. "Interesting. And where exactly did you two meet?" Lily froze. This was it, the first real test. But Adrian squeezed her hand gently, a reminder of the script he had given her. Lily drew a breath and forced her voice to steady. "At a charity tech expo last month," she said. "He was speaking on a panel about ethical innovation." Adrian nodded, as if confirming the truth of it, his confidence smoothing over the rough edges of her nerves. The woman stared a moment longer, then gave a brittle smile. "Well, good for you both. I look forward to seeing how long this one lasts." She drifted away with a swirl of perfume. Lily let out a breath she had been holding. "She hates me," she murmured. Adrian replied softly, "She hates everyone. It is not personal." But somehow, The way he said it made Lily wonder if there was history he was not telling her. More guests approached, and each time Lily fought her panic long enough to answer harmless questions, while Adrian remained a steady presence beside her. He never let go of her hand. Not once. When the crowd finally thinned, Adrian lowered his voice. "You did well. Better than I expected." Lily blinked. "You expected me to fail?" His lips tugged at the corner, the closest she had seen to a smile. "Not fail, panic." She could not help a small laugh. "I almost did. About 10 times. You hit it," he said. "That is what matters tonight." He paused, then added quietly, "I am taking you out of here now. You have done more than enough." He guided her through a side corridor and out a back exit, where the sounds of the ballroom faded behind heavy doors. Cool night air brushed against her skin, a relief after the heat of endless stairs. A sleek black car waited at the curb. Adrian opened the door for her, something no one had ever done for her before, and for a heartbeat she wondered who he was beneath all the controlled silence. "Adrian," she said softly before stepping inside, "this rule of yours, not asking questions, does it mean I will never know the truth?" He held her gaze for a long, unreadable moment. Then he said, "You will know what you need to know, when it is time." It was not an answer, not really. But there was something in his tone, something bruised but still standing, that kept her from pressing further. When he closed the door gently behind her, she finally realized the truth she had been trying to ignore. This arrangement was going to change everything. And she had no idea if she was ready. The ride through the city was quiet at first, the kind of quiet that made Lily too aware of the way her heart was still racing from the ballroom. Streetlights swept across the tinted windows, painting stripes of gold over Adrian's face as he sat beside her in the back seat. He looked composed again, distant even, like the moment outside the ballroom, where he had seemed almost vulnerable, had never happened. Lily clasped her hands together in her lap. "So, where are we going?" she asked carefully. Adrian did not look at her right away. "Someplace private. We need to discuss what happens next." The words made her pulse skip. Next. That implied there would be more than tonight. The car rolled to a stop in front of a high-rise tower, with a view of the river glittering beyond it. The doorman stepped forward immediately. "Good evening, Mr. Hale." Lily's breath caught. Of course, his penthouse. She hesitated as the elevator doors closed, the hum of machinery surrounding them as they rose higher and higher. "Adrian," she whispered, "I am not sure I should be here." He finally turned toward her, and for once, there was no steel in his expression, just a quiet, steady seriousness. "You are here because you helped me tonight, and because I need to make sure you understand what this arrangement requires." The word arrangement echoed in her mind like it had a weight of its own. When the elevator opened, the penthouse unfolded before her in a sweep of floor-to-ceiling windows and soft, modern lighting. The space looked like something out of a design magazine, all clean lines and understated wealth. But the view was the thing that stole her breath, the entire skyline stretching out like a field of diamonds. Adrian walked ahead, pulling off his suit jacket with a sharp, practiced motion, revealing the tension in his shoulders that had never fully left him. "Sit," he said lightly, gesturing to a curved sofa. It was not a command, exactly, but it held the kind of tone that made refusal feel impossible. Lily sat slowly, smoothing her dress beneath her. Adrian remained standing, studying her as if deciding where to begin. "The world will believe we are dating," he said, "because that is what I need them to believe." "Why?" she asked before she could stop herself. His jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "You remember the rule." She swallowed. "No questions." "Yes." He exhaled once, controlled and measured. "There are people who would use my personal life to destabilize ongoing negotiations. What happened tonight was necessary." "So this is about business," she murmured. "Everything is about business," he replied. But something in his tone suggested that was not entirely true. Adrian moved closer, lowering himself into the chair across from her. "If we are going to move forward, you need to understand what will be expected." He handed her a tablet. On the screen was a document, a contract. Her breath hitched. "This outlines the terms," he said. "Public appearances, conduct, confidentiality, no speaking to the media, no discussing private matters with anyone." Lily skimmed the words, each line making her chest tighten a little more. "This looks very serious," she whispered. It is, Adrian said quietly. Then, after a pause, but you may decline. I will not force you. For a moment, she believed him. But the truth settled in quickly. If she walked away, all of tonight would explode into something beyond her control. She set the tablet down, her fingers trembling. How long would this last? Adrian hesitated, then spoke with deliberate calm. 3 months. 5 public events. My schedule will dictate the details. Lily's mind spun. 3 months. 5 events. Her ordinary life felt like it was slipping further and further away. But then he said something that made her look up. If this becomes too difficult, Adrian said, you tell me. I will not let you drown in my world. It was the first comforting thing he had said all night. And yet, she sensed it came from a place of experience, like he had watched someone drown before. All right, Lily whispered. If this is what you need, I will try. Something softened in his eyes, but only for a second. He stood, offering his hand. Then we begin tomorrow. The first step will be preparing you for the next event. She placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, warm, steady, careful. And in that moment, she realized the truth she had been afraid to face. This was no longer something she was just pretending to be part of. This was the beginning of something that would change her life, whether she wanted it to or not. The next morning arrived far too quickly, sunlight spilling through the penthouse windows like a quiet reminder that Lily's world had shifted overnight. She woke on the guest room's soft mattress, momentarily forgetting where she was, until the skyline greeted her through the glass wall. For a moment, she lay still, trying to steady her breathing. 3 months. 5 events. A contract with a billionaire she barely knew, and a rule that forbade her from asking the one question burning inside her. When she stepped out into the main room, Adrian was already there, dressed in a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled back slightly, studying something on his tablet. The sight of him like that made her pulse stutter. He looked nothing like the untouchable figure from magazines. He looked human, burdened, maybe even tired. He glanced up. You are awake. Good. We need to begin. Lily blinked. Begin what exactly? Preparation, Adrian said. Tonight is your first training session. The word training made her stomach flip. For what? To make sure you can stand beside me at the next event without being devoured by people who think your existence threatens their place in society. He set the tablet aside and gestured toward a small team waiting near the dining table. Lily had not even noticed them. A stylist with a sleek black bob, a posture coach, a woman holding a folder labeled Public Conduct Guide. Lily's heart sank. Is all of this really necessary? Adrian's voice softened just a little. You saw last night. These people notice everything. They look for weaknesses. They expect me to choose someone born into their world. Someone polished. Someone who understands how these circles operate. She swallowed. Which means I do not fit. He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head up to meet his eyes. Which means, he corrected gently, that I will not let them eat you alive. The stylist moved first, circling Lily with measured eyes. She has a natural softness, the woman murmured. We can work with this. Lily stood stiffly as measurements were taken, samples were held against her skin, and a dozen outfits were discussed in terms she barely understood. Next came the posture coach, placing a book on her head and guiding her steps across the room. Relax your shoulders, lift your chin, move like you are already allowed to exist in any room you walk into. Lily tried, but her legs felt like rubber bands. She stumbled once and caught Adrian watching her, his expression unreadable. Embarrassment flushed her cheeks. I know I look ridiculous, she muttered. You do not, Adrian said quietly. You look like someone trying. Most people in my world have not tried at anything in years. Something about the way he said it made her chest warm. Hours passed, each one peeling away pieces of the ordinary girl she had always been. By late afternoon she was exhausted, her feet aching, her nerves frayed. When the team finally left, the penthouse was quiet again. Lily sank onto the sofa, head in her hands. I cannot believe this is my life, she whispered. Adrian approached slowly. Are you regretting it? She looked up at him, conflicted. I do not know. It is all happening so fast, and I barely understand what you are fighting. For a moment she thought he would shut down again, retreat behind his rules and walls. But instead he sat down across from her, elbows resting on his knees. There is a board member, he said slowly, who wants control of the company. They believe my personal life makes me vulnerable. They are waiting for a moment of weakness to force a vote against me. This arrangement buys me time." Lily stared, surprised he was telling her anything at all. "So this is about protecting your position." "Partly," his voice lowered, "and partly about protecting myself." She hesitated. "From who?" He looked away, jaw tightening. "From people who take advantage of what they think is a broken man." The words hung heavy in the air. Lily felt something fragile shift inside her. Whatever had happened to him before tonight, it had carved deep. "Adrian," she said softly, "I will not let you face this alone. If this is what you need, I will do my best. Even if I stumble through the entire process." He looked at her again, and this time there was something raw in his gaze, something almost grateful. "You will not stumble," he said. "Not with me." And for the first time since this arrangement began, Lily wondered if the danger was not the people trying to destroy Adrian, but the possibility that she would fall for the man she was only supposed to pretend to love. The next evening arrived with a quiet intensity that pressed against Lily's chest as she stood in front of the penthouse mirror, staring at the version of herself she barely recognized. The stylist had returned with a fitted navy dress that hugged her figure in a way that felt elegant rather than bold, paired with heels that still felt too tall but made her posture look confident. Her hair fell in soft waves, nothing extravagant, just enough to say she belonged somewhere important. Lily inhaled deeply, remembering the posture coach's words. "Move like you are already allowed to exist in any room you walk into." She hoped it would be enough. Adrian appeared in the doorway behind her reflection, dressed in a suit that looked like it had been tailored specifically for the shape of his resolve. His expression softened slightly when their eyes met in the mirror. "You look ready," he said. Lily gave a small, nervous laugh. "I feel like someone wearing a costume." "Good," he replied gently. "A costume becomes real when you step into it long enough." There was no sarcasm in his tone, only quiet encouragement, and that alone eased something inside her. Tonight was not a grand event but something more intimate, a private dinner with several major shareholders, including the one who wanted to push Adrian out of his own company. That fact alone made her hands tremble a little, Adrian noticed. He stepped closer, adjusting the bracelet on her wrist, so his fingers brushed her skin for the briefest moment. "You only need to do one thing," he murmured. "Stay by my side. I will handle everything else." She nodded, even though the weight of those words settled heavily in her stomach. The car ride was quieter than the previous night. This time, Lily could feel the tension radiating from Adrian in waves, like he was preparing to step into a battlefield disguised as a dinner table. When they arrived at the upscale restaurant, an attendant guided them through a private entrance into a room filled with polished wood, warm lighting, and the low hum of conversations that dropped immediately when Adrian walked in. Lily felt dozens of calculating eyes sweep over her. Adrian placed a hand at the small of her back, steady and reassuring. "Gentlemen," he greeted smoothly, "thank you for waiting." A silver-haired man at the table's sharp eyes, colder smile spoke first. "Adrian, we were beginning to wonder if you would show. I see you brought company." Lily felt the scrutiny like a spotlight, but she remembered her training. Shoulders relaxed, chin lifted, breathe evenly. She offered a polite smile. "Thank you for having me." The man's eyes narrowed, as if he was searching for the flaw he assumed she carried. "And what is your background, miss?" "Carter," Adrian said calmly, cutting in before Lily could answer. "Lily has been a great support recently." The subtle message in his voice was clear: do not push. But the man ignored the signal. "Support," he repeated slowly. "Interesting choice." Adrian's jaw flexed, but he maintained his composure. Lily felt a surge of protectiveness she did not expect. She leaned in slightly, her voice steady. "Sometimes the best support comes from people who have no interest in power. It makes their loyalty far more genuine." The table went quiet for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, one of the younger board members chuckled. "She has a point." Even Adrian's eyes flickered with something like surprise. Dinner unfolded with sharp questions, subtle jabs, and strategic conversations that Lily struggled to follow, but she never drifted far from Adrian's side. She could sense every shift in his mood, every restrained reaction, every unspoken tension tied to the silver-haired man across the table. At one point, when the conversation intensified, Adrian's hand brushed against hers under the table, not intentionally, but seeking steadiness. She gave it lightly, a grounding touch. When the dinner ended and they stepped outside into the cool night air, Lily released a breath she had been holding for hours. "That was intense," she whispered. Adrian glanced at her, something warm flickering beneath the exhaustion. "You were impressive," he said. "More than you know." She smiled softly, the compliment settling through her like a quiet glow. But as they approached the car, Adrian suddenly stopped, turning to look back at the restaurant entrance with a shadowed expression. Lily followed his gaze and saw the silver-haired man watching them, his stare sharp, calculating, and filled with a promise that chilled her. Adrian exhaled slowly. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They will not stop here," Lily swallowed. "Then we will not stop either." And when Adrian looked down at her, she realized this was no longer just an arrangement. It was a storm, and she was already standing in the center of it with him. The following days unfolded like a series of carefully controlled storms, each one testing Lily's resolve more than the last. Adrian's world was not just wealthy and polished, it was full of eyes that watched, judged, and whispered the moment someone stepped out of line. And whether she liked it or not, she was now the person everyone wanted to dissect. The morning after the shareholder dinner, Lily found herself scrolling through social media, her breath catching as she saw blurry photos of her and Adrian from the night before. The captions were ruthless. "Who is the mystery woman? Is Adrian Hale replacing his ex with a nobody? She looks lost. He can do better." Lily's stomach twisted. She clicked her phone screen off and set it face down, fighting the rising urge to disappear. Adrian entered the room just in time to see her expression. "What happened?" he asked, his voice more urgent than he intended. Lily shook her head. "Nothing important. It is fine." But it was not fine, and he knew it. Adrian picked up her phone, saw the articles, and a look of cold fury settled over his features. "They always do this," he muttered. "They tear apart anyone who gets close to me." She looked up at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then why involve me at all?" His expression softened immediately, the anger melting into something that almost looked like regret. "Because I trust you," he said quietly. "And I did not think they would move this fast." But the damage was already spreading. Later that afternoon, as Lily walked through the lobby of the Hale Corporation headquarters for a scheduled meeting, she felt the sting of curious glances from employees passing by. A few smiled politely. Most did not. When the elevator doors closed, she exhaled shakily, pressing her palms together to stop them from shaking. The meeting room was filled with department heads preparing for a major charity announcement. Lily was only supposed to observe, but Adrian insisted she join him. When he walked in, the room hushed instantly. His presence carried weight, a quiet authority that demanded attention, even from those who clearly resented him. The silver-haired board member, Mr. Dalton, sat near the front, flipping through a folder with slow, deliberate movements. His eyes lifted the moment he saw Lily. "Ah," he said, voice dripping with condescension. "The girlfriend." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Lily is here because she is assisting with the upcoming foundation event. Mr. Dalton chuckled under his breath. "Is that what we are calling it now?" Lily felt the air shift, felt the judgment pressing against her like a physical weight. But before she could retreat inward, Adrian placed a hand at her back, a steadying presence. "If you have something to say, Dalton," he said with quiet steel, "say it to me." Dalton smiled thinly. "Very well. My concern is simple. Your personal distractions are becoming an issue. Investors are questioning your focus. They wonder if you are making decisions based on emotional impulses rather than the stability of the company." Adrian inhaled slowly, maintaining his composure. "My decisions are calculated, including the people I allow into my life." The room fell silent. Lily felt her heart hammering in her chest. The implication in his voice was unmistakable. Dalton leaned back in his chair, eyes glinting. "Then let us hope you calculated correctly." The meeting continued, but the atmosphere remained heavy, each comment layered with hidden meaning. Lily followed Adrian out afterward, the weight of the exchange settling over her. "I am making things harder for you," she said once they reached the hallway. "I should not be here." Adrian stopped walking. "Lily," he said, turning toward her, "if I did not want you here, you would not be." She hesitated. "But Dalton has been trying to undermine me for years," Adrian said sharply. "You did not cause this, you just revealed it." His voice softened. and you handled yourself better than most people in that room." A warmth spread through Lily's chest, unexpected but grounding. But the moment did not last long. As they stepped outside the building, a reporter rushed forward with a microphone, camera crew trailing behind. "Mr. Hale, is it true your new relationship is a publicity stunt to distract from internal company conflict?" Adrian stiffened, but before he could respond, the reporter turned to Lily. "Miss, how much are you being paid to pretend you are dating him?" The question hit her like a slap. The crowd around them murmured, phones lifting to record. Lily felt the heat rise in her face, her throat constricting. Adrian stepped in front of her instantly, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Enough, she is off limits." But the damage was done. As the security team ushered them into the car, Lily pressed her trembling hands into her lap, trying not to crumble. She whispered, "I cannot breathe in this world. I am not built for it." Adrian turned toward her, his expression torn between anger and concern. "You are stronger than you think," he said, "and I will protect you." She looked at him, eyes shimmering with doubt. "But who is going to protect you from me being the reason they come after you harder?" Adrian opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Because for the first time since this began, he realized she was not wrong. For 2 days, the tension inside the penthouse felt like a taut wire ready to snap. Lily barely slept, replaying the reporter's question again and again. The humiliation clung to her like a stain she could not scrub away. Adrian tried to check on her, but each time he approached, she seemed farther away, retreating behind walls she had never shown him before. On the third night, she stood on the balcony, arms wrapped around herself as the city stretched beneath her in glittering silence. The cool air brushed her skin, grounding her in a way nothing else had since the confrontation outside the Hale Corporation building. She heard Adrian step outside before he spoke. "Lily," he said quietly, "you have barely looked at me since that day." She kept her gaze on the skyline. "I do not know how to be in a world that keeps trying to break me." He moved closer, leaning on the railing beside her. "You think I do not understand that feeling?" She glanced at him, surprised. "You are the one with power," she whispered. "They cannot break you." Adrian let out a low breath, the kind that carried years of buried truth. "Power does not make you unbreakable. It just means everyone tries harder to find the cracks." Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither of them looked away. But then she stepped back, the weight of everything too heavy to ignore. "Adrian," she said softly, "maybe this was a mistake. Your company is under scrutiny, Dalton is closing in, and I have become the easiest weapon for them to use." His jaw tightened, but not in anger. It was fear, quiet but unmistakable. "Do not say that," he whispered. "It is true," she replied. "People are attacking you because of me, and if staying beside you makes your enemies stronger, then I should walk away." Adrian reached for her hand on instinct, but she moved it gently out of reach. For the first time since their arrangement began, he looked lost. "Lily, you agreed to this. You promised to stand with me for 3 months." "I did," she said, voice trembling, "but I did not know I would be the reason everything hurts more." "You are not the reason," Adrian insisted, stepping closer. "Dalton would have attacked me no matter what. You did not cause this." "Maybe," she whispered, "but I made it easier for him." The argument dissolved into a heavy pause, the kind that felt like a ledge between two cliffs. Adrian dragged a hand through his hair, frustration and desperation mixing in his eyes. "You think walking away will protect me?" Lily nodded slowly. "Yes, and it might protect me too." He swallowed hard, the words visibly hurting him. "Is that what you want?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Because the truth was tangled and painful. She cared about him more than she should, and the deeper she fell, the more impossible the facade became. Adrian watched her struggle, and something inside him finally broke. "Lily," he said, voice low and raw, "I know the rule I set. No questions, no digging, no past. But I set that rule for a reason, not to control you, to protect you." She blinked, confused. "Protect me from what?" He hesitated, then looked away, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "From the part of my life that destroyed everything I cared about once before." The confession cracked the air between them. Lily stepped closer without meaning to. "Adrian, I did not want that darkness anywhere near you," he said. "But somehow, without asking for it, you walked right into my life and became the only person who makes any of this madness feel bearable." Her breath caught. The storm of emotion on his face was something she had never seen from him, not once. "You are not a mistake," he whispered. "You are the one thing that is real in all of this." Lily's heart twisted painfully. Then why does everything hurt so much? Adrian closed the distance between them slowly, giving her time to pull away. She did not. "Because," he said softly, "some things stop being pretend before we notice it happening." The word struck her like a truth she had been avoiding. Before she could respond, a sudden vibration broke the moment. Adrian's phone lit up with a message. His expression darkened as he read it. "What is it?" Lily asked. He looked at her with a mix of anger and dread. "Dalton just called an emergency board vote. He wants control of the company, and he is using you as part of his justification." A cold wave washed through her. "What does that mean?" Adrian stepped closer, his jaw set with a determination she had not seen before. "It means," he said, taking her hands in his, "that tomorrow we fight back, together." And for the first time, Lily realized this was no longer just his storm, it was theirs. The next morning arrived with a weight that neither of them could ignore. The entire penthouse seemed to hold its breath as Adrian prepared for the emergency board meeting that would decide the fate of his company. Lily stood near the window, watching the city slowly wake beneath a hazy sunrise, feeling the quiet tremble inside her grow stronger. She had never imagined her life would collide with a world where power could shift with a single vote. Adrian approached her, dressed in a dark suit that seemed to sharpen the resolve in his eyes. "You can stay here," he said gently. "You do not have to be in the room for this." Lily turned to him, her voice steady but soft. "I am the reason Dalton is pushing this vote. If you can face him, then I can face the room." The faintest spark of admiration warmed Adrian's expression. "Then we go together." The ride to the Hale Corporation headquarters was silent, tension coiling around them like an invisible storm. When they entered the boardroom, every conversation stopped. Men and women in tailored suits watched them with expressions ranging from curiosity to thinly veiled contempt. Dalton sat at the head of the table, leaning back in his chair with a smile that never touched his eyes. "Adrian," he said smoothly, "shall we begin?" Adrian's jaw tightened, but he remained composed as he took his seat. Lily sat beside him, ignoring the whispers spreading around the table. Dalton stood. "As you all know," he began, "our company has suffered from its leader's questionable judgment. Public perception has declined, and investors are nervous. The situation surrounding his new girlfriend has only added fuel to the fire." Several heads nodded. Lily felt her pulse throb in her ears. Dalton continued, "Therefore, I am calling for a vote to remove Adrian Hale as acting CEO and appoint a more stable leadership." Adrian rose slowly, his calm presence filling the room like a rising tide. "If you have concerns about my leadership," he said, "then address those concerns. But do not drag a woman who has shown nothing but grace and courage through your schemes." Dalton scoffed. "She is the scheme, Adrian, a distraction, a liability. If you want to play house with a nobody, do it on your own time." Lily flinched as the words hit her. Adrian's voice hardened. "Enough." The room fell silent. "Lily is not the reason this company is under attack. You are. Your obsession with control has blinded you to the damage you are causing." Dalton raised an eyebrow. Bold words for a man about to lose everything. Adrian stepped aside, gesturing toward Lily. "Before you vote," he said, "you should hear from the woman you are so eager to blame." Lily froze, startled. "Adrian," he nodded once, quietly. The trust in his eyes steadied her. Slowly, she stood. The room watched her like a jury waiting for a crack. She took a breath. "I am not from your world," she began. "I do not have your money, your last names, or your expectations. I did not ask to be part of any of this. I only wanted to help someone who trusted me." Dalton smirked, but Lily kept going. "You call me a distraction, but the only distraction I see is a board member willing to destroy a company just to satisfy his ego." A few board members exchanged surprised glances. Lily continued, voice gaining strength. "Adrian Hale is not perfect, but he has integrity. He fights for the people who work here. He cares about the future of this company more than you ever will. And if you cannot see that, then perhaps you are the ones who should reconsider your roles." Dalton's smile vanished. Adrian watched her with an expression that was impossible to describe. Pride, awe, something deeper than either of them expected. Dalton slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. We vote now." One by one, hands were raised. Dalton voted yes. Another board member voted yes. But then, unexpectedly, one of the younger members from the dinner raised his hand for no. "I believe in Adrian," he said. Another followed. And another. Dalton's face twisted as the votes continued to fall out of his favor. Finally, the last hand lifted. "No, Adrian stays." Adrian exhaled slowly, relief washing through his features. Dalton stood abruptly, fury etched into his expression. "This is not over," he hissed. "Oh, it is," Adrian replied, his voice like steel. Security escorted Dalton out as he shouted in protest. "If you want to play house with a nobody, do it on your own time." Lily flinched as the words hit her. Adrian's voice hardened. "Enough." The room fell silent. "Lily is not the reason this company is under attack. You are. Your obsession with control has blinded you to the damage you are causing." Dalton raised an eyebrow. Bold words for a man about to lose everything. Adrian stepped aside, gesturing toward Lily. "Adrian." He pulled a small envelope from his pocket and placed it in her hands. Inside was a new contract, but this one had only a single line printed on it. "Be with me, for real." Her eyes stung with emotion. "Are you sure?" Adrian cupped her face with a careful, reverent touch. "I have never been more sure of anything." And as she leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of a man who had finally allowed someone in, she realized that their story had never been about pretending. When the room finally emptied, Lily sagged back in her chair, heart still pounding. Adrian knelt beside her, taking her hands gently in his. "You saved me today," he whispered. "I meant what I said," she replied. "You did not deserve to fight this alone." Adrian looked at her then, with a tenderness she had never seen before, a softness that stripped him of every wall he had ever built. "Lily," he said, "we started this as pretend, but I cannot pretend anymore." Her breath caught,